Welcome, everybody, to A Little Perspective. Today, we have a very special, fun, and energetic guest with you, Mark Heise. How are you today, Mark?
I'm great. I hope I live up to that introduction.
I think you sure do.
Okay, we'll try.
Yeah? How's your day going so far?
It's been great. Yeah, super easy. The wind's not blowing as bad as it was there for the last few days, and so yeah, I don't think I have to work too much today. So
Right.
it's a rare day off.
No, that's good.
That's awesome. You need one of those.
Yeah. So yeah, this is easy. This is a piece of cake.
100%.
So just on the start of a podcast, just to get the ball rolling, we usually start with our guests telling a little bit about themselves, just
Sure.
so everybody's on the same page.
Absolutely. So I'm Mark Heise. I am president and CEO of Rebellion Brewing Company. That's a local craft brewery here in Regina, Saskatchewan. We've been around for almost 10 years now. And yeah, it's a ton of fun. We employ, quite a few staff. I think at least 17 full-time and quite a pile of part-time. I counted the other day, but probably at least 30 or more. And yeah, we really our tag, which is, my hat obviously says "Be a Rebel, Drink Great Beer," but our brand promise is great beer that makes the community better. So we obviously do a thing that makes us money, but there should always be kind of like, why else do you exist beyond making money? And we love Regina, and we think there's a lot to offer, and we have a responsibility as a business to give back and support and hopefully enhance the community. So that's kind of why we exist. That's what we do. We've won a ton of awards for our community work. We've won a ton of awards for our beers, and so we seem to be living our values. So we're pretty happy about that.
Right. And you mentioned like the why of your company, but what is your why? Like, how did this all come to be?
Yeah. So because it can turn into a really long-winded thing if you hear the whole history of my life, which gets really boring. But I wanted to open a craft brewery. Basically, I love beer almost all my life. Maybe 14 or 15, 16, I started really enjoying beer. But ultimately, I just started teaching myself how to brew beer because I loved it so much as a home brewer, probably around 2005. And I just loved it. It was just nothing but a hobby. This is a passion. And there's home brewing competitions you could enter as well. And I was winning way, way more than anyone else in Canada as a home brewer. And so then anyways, yeah, this whole craft beer boom was kind of coming around in the 20 teens. And so me and a few other friends, we were like, you know what, I think there's a good opportunity here in Saskatchewan. When we started 10 years ago, there was some other craft breweries, but not a whole lot. And so it just seemed like kind of the right place, right time. Previous to that, I worked in IT. I was an accountant. I was a project manager. I used to wear a suit. I don't have one on right now, but I still have one if I needed to wear one. I got to do a ton of different things over my career, but now I just make beer.
Right. So I'm going to ask you, like, you market your company so well, Be a Rebel, drink great beer.
Yep.
How did the name come into being? Rebellion.
Yeah, so Rebellion, that was, we have a really good ownership group. There's 4 of us, and we all have really strong-willed ideas and opinions. And, sometimes that's better than others. But coming up with the name for the brewery was really tough. It took us months, and not so much that we're all thick-headed and hard-headed about it. We actually probably chose several names that we all loved. But then you get into that space of intellectual property and who's got things trademarked. Is there another brewery that already exists or something else in that space? So we probably bounced around with quite a few. And it was getting to the point almost where like, this isn't worth it. Let's just not open a business. This is way too hard if we can't find a name. And then just off the cuff, my partner Neil, I think, suggested, what about Rebellion? And we're like, you know what? Yeah, that kind of works. And again, that whole initial impetus was about, we're rebelling against corporate beer, corporate mainstream, big business, that sort of stuff, really poor quality. A lot of it is sold, there's a lot of greasy salespeople that we like to talk about in the beer business, and just not truthful advertising, a lot of sexism in that and all that stuff. This stuff we don't really enjoy. So we're like, yeah, that kind of works for us. And we've kind of really embraced that in kind of everything we do as a business. We have a restaurant. We want it to be really, really, really welcoming and diverse. And, we have a lot of female staff, which, in the beer industry, there's almost no females working, especially on the production side. You'll get a lot of like servers, that sort of stuff. But we have 2 female brewers in our brewery. Those are the 2 female brewers in the whole entire province. So,
Wow.
we're doing pretty good on that, I
Right.
think. So and it's not a token gesture. As I mentioned, we're winning awards all the time for our beers. It
Right.
just happens to be brewed by some women.
Right.
Yeah.
So you mentioned like you started this in 2005 in your home,
Yep.
but Rebellion came to be 10 years ago.
Yep.
So from 2005 to 2014,
Yep.
what were those 9 years like?
Well, a lot was going on. I mean, like I say, I was really just homebrewing as an amateur over that time. I was working in IT. I was doing all sorts of stuff. I did a lot of work with the government of Saskatchewan, and I don't regret any of my time there. When I mention that, a lot of people are like, oh yeah, government, it sucks. And I mean, it's like any place you work. There's highs and lows, and good and bad, and it's all about what you make of it and the experiences you gain. So I don't regret any of that.
Right.
I think, and one of the real key things the real trigger thing that really changed it for me was, me and my wife, Joanne, we're happily married, doing this, doing that. She ultimately got cancer in 2010, I believe.
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. And, it's fine. Right. But it was a huge shock to us. Obviously it's a huge change if you kind of hopefully reflect on your life, and she had to go through treatments, missed about over a year of work, and she's great now. She's fantastic. But the one thing it did mean is, we were not able to have a family, to have our own children. And so in some ways it becomes very freeing, although that was very sad, and it took time to process that. It was very freeing. It's like, okay, well, maybe I don't have to work for the government. Maybe I could chase this crazy beer thing, because, right. And if it fails, well, that'll be awful. But I'm not worried about supporting a whole household of people, right?
Right.
So yeah, sometimes things just work out that way, and so that was really what allowed me to take that leap of faith. Because for me personally, I'm not usually one to take big risks. Again, my initial business my initial career was in accounting. That's pretty stale and boring and conservative. And, you go by the numbers, and my dad was an accountant, and I learned so much from him, those same values, and his grandparents, like, you scrimp, you save, you don't get too crazy, don't go don't take major risks. Right. So that was a real turning point for me to start to dabble into that. And it was obviously, you need to be able to do that if you're going to be an entrepreneur and run your own business. So I'm very thankful I was able to have that mind shift happen. Yeah.
And so sorry, go ahead.
So the first time that we met, like we had a meeting at your brewery, amazing brewery. Everybody check that out first of all. And you mentioned about being authentic, like you've always been yourself.
Yep.
So it hasn't been so hard for you tackling around challenges, right? Of course, like challenges put you down, but if you're yourself, if you're authentic, you can go around that easily. What do you have to say about that? How can someone be more authentic?
Yeah, authenticity is a tough one. It's so again, I'm thinking right now of in the 90s when I was doing IT work, and I had to wear collared shirt and a tie, and you had to cover up your tattoos and all that sort of stuff. And I used to play in punk rock bands, but like no one at work knew. No one could know that. So kind of lived a dual life, right? Like at work, I'm there with my tie and fixing computers, and at home, I'm playing in punk rock bands and making a bunch of noise and jumping up and down on stage. And it's fine, right? And a lot of folks have that. But yeah, being able to run your own business. And again, that's just an internal thing for me. Is I like I like myself. I like doing what I do. And it's just a really fun way to live and to work, to be honest, is to be your true self, lay it all out on the line. And you know what? Sometimes it backfires. Sometimes it doesn't always work out. But at least I did it being truthful and honest and being myself, right? And what I've really started to notice is a lot of people really appreciate that. They're like, yeah, this guy can be a little goofy, or this guy admits he doesn't actually know what he's doing sometimes, but he just puts himself out there and does it and takes a chance. And so that I think that's a big part of our marketing, and what attracts a lot of people to Rebellion, whether you like beer or not. They're like, hey, they're just out there trying to do their thing, trying to be creative. And it's not just me, it's about accepting all of my staff. I encourage all of them, like, do your thing, dress how you want, express yourself. If you got an idea for a beer or an event, or like, let's do it, right? Like whatever that might be. There's so much value in being authentic, as opposed to just like, well, we all must be straight and narrow. We all must be totally appropriate, that sort of thing. Yeah, it can actually enhance your business, right? At the same time, yeah, I mean, we've literally had some places want to throw us out of their liquor stores because they're like, well, you're not wearing nice enough clothes.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, cool. I don't need to do business with you because there's a lot of other people that don't. They love my clothes. Right. I was walking this morning. I mean, I literally have to start counting the amount of people that like flag me down just out on the street every day, like wave at me, honk at me. They're like, yeah, Rebellion. And I'm not saying that to brag. Like it's shocking to me. I was actually I go out walking every day. And I was just saying about this week, I'm like, that's nuts, and before I did Rebellion, no one was honking at me and waving at me. You're just a guy. So anyways, that's a long-winded way of saying, just being authentic is awesome. I just embrace it, and it's tough and it's scary. I can totally relate. I was scared. I didn't want anyone to know what I was really about and what I was really into in my previous careers. But I'm sure glad that I changed that way of thinking.
100%. Yeah. And plus, you can only put up that facade for so long.
Yeah.
Like either you just start forgetting yourself or your true self just comes out.
Yeah.
Like,
and that's what I mean. Like,
you don't want to suppress it too much, right?
Yeah. We just want, I want to make things, I want to be successful on my own merits.
Exactly.
Yeah. And to relate it, not that I'm here to necessarily sell beer, but like the actual product we make, we're so proud of it. We list all the ingredients on our products. We'll give out the recipes to people. You can come to the brewery. You'll see the recipes just sitting out. Like we're not cutting corners. We're not doing any of that. We're like, no, if we're going to make a product, it's going to be awesome. And it's going to be the best we can make. We're not, there's a lot of sleight of hand in a lot of, well, just about any business, to be quite honest, where they're not quite truthful about how they make things, right? They'll say things like, it's made with real fruit flavor. Well, that's not fruit.
Yeah,
that's artificial extract that they're allowed to label as real fruit flavor. Yeah, just sleight of hands like that. And you're like, nah, that just feels dirty to me. I don't want to do that. I'm going to use real fruit. And even if it costs more money, and sometimes the real fruit doesn't have as nice of a color or this, because real things aren't always perfect and pretty and beautiful.
Yeah. Like if people could see a word pop up of like a person's head,
yeah,
I feel like yours would be like integrity.
Yeah. I was trying to think of the other word because people, and I've sat and chatted with people before, and then they say that authentic and integrity, and and I'm just willing to let it stand, right? And if people are into that, that's cool. And like when I mentioned earlier to say beer industry greasy salespeople, they come in and they razzle dazzle in this big sales pitch. Like we don't. We're like we literally say to people like, we make really good beer. We're good people. We sell it to you at a fair price. Are you, and we're literally like, are you into that or not? Because if you're not, that's cool. I'll just go talk to someone else. And again, it's not an arrogance thing. It's just like, I'm not here to play games. Like that's just not my thing. And again, it's worked so far, so we'll stick with it.
100%.
I think that's what everybody has to, I would say, realize. There's this quote that I read somewhere that it's better to lose in your path than to win at somebody else's path.
Absolutely.
Right. And there's this guy we follow. His name is Gary Vaynerchuk. And, when you imagine somebody who's great at marketing, what do you think? Somebody in a suit, a tie, and everything. I've never seen that guy in a suit. He's wearing a hoodie, sneakers, or a cap, right?
Yeah. When I look at the people that I really admire, whether they're in leadership or business or whatever, they usually are a bit of themselves, and so I really appreciate that. I remember, again, I never ever imagined I would be involved in marketing. I remember I took marketing 101 or 100 at the U of R. Right. And I thought this is the stupidest class. Like you can't. I was like, you can't teach, you can't teach marketing. and I was like, I'm never taking marketing class again. I don't want to be a marketer. And I mean, now I absolutely do marketing. Yeah. And there's absolutely value in it, but I'm,
in your own way.
In my own way. Yeah. And that's how we view it. Right. And we just take a really different approach to that. And we see it all the time. So in the alcohol industry, a lot of your sales come from selling to the retail stores. And we see so many of the salespeople from trying to sell to the store. Right. Sell to the store, dealing with the store. And we love the store managers and they're lovely and we want to develop good relationships with them, but we're not trying to sell to them. Like I was just saying, I'm not going to try to convince them to buy 100 units instead of 50 units. Like, I don't care. Right. But we try to market to the end consumer, so they will come into the store and buy it. And therefore the manager will think, geez, we sold all the Rebellion beer. We better order more. Right. So that we've just invested all of our time and energy into that. Let's reach the end customer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, like Nikhil mentioned, like a person that we follow. There's also another guy, Simon Sinek.
Yeah. I love Simon. Yeah. He's my favorite.
Right. And he gave this TED talk like 14 years ago.
Yeah. That's like the most watched TED talk ever.
Yeah.
Is that the what's your why?
Yeah, exactly. So he like talks about like the golden circle.
Yep.
Right. So I feel like that's something that's separating you from every single person that in a way you compete with.
Yep.
Because your why is clear. Like people go from like the outside of the circle to the inside. Like they like say like, hey, we sell beer. This is how we make it. Would you like to buy one? It sounds like boring and bland. Like there's like 15 other companies I could go for.
Yep.
But you have your why clear. You're like, this is why we do it. We believe in this cause. We have these products. Would you like to buy one?
Yeah.
Now that gives people goosebumps. It's like, hey, I relate to that. And that's why people want to come to you.
I think so. It kind of flipped it on its head.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, we've been lucky and we've kind of just figured a lot of that out by accident. But
is that so? How's that?
Yeah. Again, just trial and error, right? And you're just like, because I don't know anything else. I only took one marketing class and I forgot it as soon as I finished it, right? So I'm like, well, I got to figure this out. So I figured it out to my best of my ability. You hope it works, right? And if it doesn't work, you're like, well, I better change this approach and go on from there. So the other Simon Sinek thing I really love is the concept of the never-ending game. I love that. Yeah, infinite game. Thank you. I just love that. I reference it to our staff all the time, and we absolutely have quarterly goals and financials and whatnot. But you know, and it feels real good when you achieve those things. It feels real good when we win medals for our beer. But like, the game's not over. We still got and actually winning medals for your beers does not sell any more beer. Which is there's actually been studies on that. Which is, and we do it because we're proud and we want to see how we rate against everyone and all this sort of stuff. But you can win those medals and awards. At the end of the day, you still got to go back to work the next day and keep hustling. So
those are just arbitrary numbers.
So you better enjoy what you do, and you better 100%. Have something else that you're shooting for rather than making sure that you hit your profitability target for last week.
It's like how people say like the top of one mountain is like the bottom of the other.
Exactly.
The climb never stops, right? Like you could think like you conquered everything, but there's infinite mountains that you have to climb until
for sure
finally stop breathing.
For sure. And I don't even I think about it. I go in peaks and valleys just with my whole business thoughts. But there's sometimes it might last for even a couple of months where I'm like, I'm not sure what the next mountain's gonna be. And then all of a sudden, just out of nowhere, you're like, oh, there it is. That's what I'm gonna go do. That's what I'm excited about next. So yeah, there's never once have I woke up and thought, you know what, I've accomplished everything. I'm done. I'm bored. What am I going to do next? There's always something's going to come along, and just got to be open to that idea, right? Just always open. You never know who's going to walk through the door, right? You guys reached out to me. I was like, yeah, of course I want to come and talk with you, right? Just that whole idea of just being really open-minded, say yes to everything. I want to say that's another quote. I'm terrible at like quotes and inspiration and all that, but I think that say yes to everything. And then at the same time, there's the other quote is learn how to say no. Because then you say yes to too many things. But just things outside of your wheelhouse or new people that you haven't met before. Why wouldn't you want to meet them? So that's it's just something it served me well. I don't see why I should change.
Right. So I mean, you have your why so clear. Your company's doing so well, right? Your staff, they're inspired to go to work because of the environment that you've created, right? You're a great leader. How do you build that leadership skills?
That's really fun. I was thinking about that even just a few days ago. My brain never shuts off, and I'm always thinking about things in the past and things in the future and how does it all relate. But anyways, I remember when I was in government and working in IT, and I was working my way up, and I reported to a deputy minister and all these, and I was pretty darn good at my job. But I was kind of getting to that point where it's like, okay, I've mastered this skill. Like, what else is there? And then a really good person that I worked for, her name's Bonnie. She got me into the whole leadership thing, and just loved it. I just got so excited about that and embraced that. And it's just a whole other skill and something I never imagined I would be into. Again, I was very analytical. I was an accountant and I was like an IT programmer. Like there's no human element to that, either of those things. It's like emotionless, raw data and logic. That's all it is, right? Yeah. And it's awesome. I can still do that. But the whole idea of leadership blew my mind. And I realized that I was really bad at it. And I think more than anything, I was like, well, I don't want to be bad at something. I thought I could learn this. And so it's been so rewarding, again, my previous careers, or even when I was just a home brewer, I mean, I just made beer by myself. But running a beer company, now I get to, as you're saying, I get to try to inspire other folks and encourage them to be really successful at things or take on things they've never done before, and support them in chasing their hopes and dreams and ideas. And it's incredibly rewarding now to say that, it's not me that's successful. It's all of my staff that get to enjoy that. Right. And you see that. And again, I'm not bragging, but you see that, that admiration and respect that I get from a lot of my staff. I mean, that's one of the best feelings in the world, right? To just see that loyalty, and it's amazing.
Do you feel like an imposter sometimes?
Well, I don't know. Yeah, sometimes it feels weird that it's like, how did I get to actually do all this stuff? So I'm very lucky. But again, it was just from hard work and just trying things, right? And it's like, again, leadership is a skill, and they say, well, try this or try that, or try to understand different personalities. And, and there's times when I would love to just yell and scream at someone because they, right. That's your gut instinct. Yeah. I go yell at them. That's not going to get a good result.
Yeah, what is that going to do in the end?
Yeah. And so I've really, I've spent tons of time teaching my management team those same things, and even sending them on leadership training. And then I see them not yelling and screaming at their staff, and instead just kind of pulling back and being like, oh, I think this person just needs a little coaching, right? Or a little mentoring. And so again, it's cool. It's just cool to see that. It's really, really fun. And when people buy into that, you can do a lot with very little, I guess I would say, right? Yeah. Again, we have very, very talented people that work at Rebellion Brewing, but almost none of them that work there today came from a brewing background. So we had to figure it all out on our own. So we should be really proud of that.
So, like there's one thing that, like, you're taught how to be a good leader. Like, you can read books on it. Like Bonnie, like the amazing person you mentioned.
Yeah.
She can give her idea of what leadership means to her. But there's another thing about molding that into something that and make your own. So what's your definition of an ideal leader?
I think, yeah. I mean, I always think about trying to, I want to be inspired. When I think about the best leaders for me over my career and my life, they inspired me to want to do great things. They encouraged me to do great things. They gave me confidence. They pumped me up. And if I was way off track, like, pull me aside and tell me that, right? But from a place of care and concern, right? I'd say my wife's one of the best people for that.
Yeah.
I can't say there's a specific timeline, but maybe it's once a year or something. She'll be like, hey, you gotta tone us down. Like, this is a little much. And I get a little upset at first, and then I think about it. I'm like, she's right. Like, and she's telling me that because she cares about me and she wants me to be awesome, right? So that's where I value that, and it's about building that trust, right? That trust and respect. So that's what I've always wanted. So, I mean, in terms of how I try to approach all my staff, I'm trying to get them excited about stuff, and again, put them in a place that they can hopefully be successful at what they need to do. In terms of what I don't necessarily call it leadership, but I think about my approach to managing people. I try to set out goals and results, and I kind of don't care how you get there. I'm not going to micromanage staff. I'm really not into that, but that's more a reflection of me. I hate being micromanaged myself. So in some ways I do kind of exert that onto them. And I've had some staff that need to be micromanaged, and it honestly didn't work out that well because I just can't do that. That's just not what I'm good at. So maybe there's some room for me to grow there.
Yeah.
I should learn how to maybe micromanage when needed, but I get no enjoyment from that. I think it's far more funner. Again, and this is me projecting my own values. It's way more funner to figure it out on your own. And it doesn't mean that I won't help them and give them guidance along the way, but it's like, it's so much more rewarding. And I see that. I see the look in their eyes when they accomplish something, because they're like, I did this. I'm like, yeah, you did. I didn't help you. You figured this out all on your own. And it just gives them so much more confidence to take on the next task. So,
because then they're walking on their own path. Nobody's telling them you do it this way.
Exactly. And I see them, and I might even see them take on a task or work, and in my head I'm like, I wouldn't do it that way. That's bad. That's not the right way to do it. Right. And you know what? I shut up. I don't say a word. I'm like, and sometimes they succeed, and then sometimes they may even fail. And then they come, if they do fail, they come and say, it didn't work out. I say, cool, maybe try it this way. Oh, okay. But again, you have to allow people to make mistakes. I think, sorry, that's a long-winded way. You need to allow people to make mistakes. No, that's
completely fine. Right. And you know, like it's better to give somebody like the torch and let them light the path. Because I mean, of course, they need like some sort of guidance. Like if you just throw them somewhere.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like it's not just it's not chaos. Like if you're
in headlights.
Yeah, like that's bad. Like that's bad. You can't let people put themselves into bad situations. Exactly. But again, there's calculated risks. Some of my staff come to me with even ideas that I think are probably not a great idea. But I weigh the risks of that idea failing or succeeding. And it's like, you know what? Go try it. Whereas if I just said, no, that's a dumb idea, you're not allowed to do it, they're going to be mad at me. And they're probably not going to come to me with another idea. So there's been times when there's been ideas that I don't think are great. I still say, go ahead and try it. And it maybe does fail. And they come to me and say it failed. And I say, okay, well, what did you learn? Well, I learned that I got to do this, this, and this. Fantastic, right? That's the best. Those are the best. Making mistakes are important. So you have to allow some space to make those mistakes.
I think J.K. Rowling had this amazing quote. She said that if you didn't fail in life, you failed by default.
Exactly.
That means you didn't try anything new.
Exactly.
Right. And like we started this podcast on this idea that storytelling as a concept is so powerful. You can learn something from somebody's story. You can get inspired from somebody's stories more than any amount of motivation or, all these shitty YouTube videos you watch. Yep. Right. So growing up, what's that one story or that one person, whatever it is, that inspired you?
That's a really tough one to say one person. I like to take snippets from everybody, and it never ends. So that, oh man, I don't know how to answer that.
Or like a cherished memory. Like even like you can talk about something that happened ever since you started until now.
Yeah.
Just somebody you looked up growing up.
I really respected my dad. He was always just organized. He's had his stuff together. And he was very fun and all this sort of stuff, but also was like very serious, very straight laced. He taught me so much about accounting, because he worked as an accountant. He worked in insurance. He explained insurance. When it was time to do income taxes every year, I would sit with him and do them with him, and he would explain how taxes, and like that might sound really boring to the average 12-year-old, but I thought it was amazing. And so I guess why I can relate that now to running the brewery is that I have those skills. I know those core business fundamentals of how to run taxes and accounting and all that stuff. And I've worked in that space. But at the same time, you got to have a little fun. You got to be a little off the cuff. You got to take a few risks now and again. And so you see, and I'm not perfect by any stretch. I'm not the ultimate. That's not the case at all. I know that what makes me pretty successful is that I can play that really strong analytical side, that is really important on the business end of things. And then I can also turn on the creative side. Right. And be super creative and artistic. And I haven't met a lot of people that can do both well. I've met people that are so more creative than me. And a lot of them get into running their own business or their own brewery or their own restaurant. And they are so talented. They are so talented at what they do. they can't run their business
because there's no execution,
and they get into trouble, right, and they run out of money, and it's awful. It's heartbreaking to see that, because they're so talented, but they don't have that. But then at the same time, you see some other folks that are like, well, I crunch the numbers and I think I can make this amount of money if I open up my own business. And then they realize, oh, well, there's no marketing, there's no creative, there's no story, there's no passion. It's just a spreadsheet and a bunch of calculations that say, if I do this, I will make money. And that doesn't work either. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if what I'm doing is working, but I know I try to play both sides.
Right.
Yeah.
And like I wanted to ask you this when you mentioned about like a dark time in your life.
Yeah.
So every single person, has been through something so heartbreaking and like gut wrenching.
Yep.
So at the time when you mentioned like your wife got sick,
yeah,
and you were in the middle of just starting like the home brewery and everything, like working. How did you find that glimmer of hope? Because I feel like from your story, a lot of people can learn something.
Yeah. No, again, and I think it's important to have highs and lows. No one wants to go through lows, but those are part of life, and you should. Even the whole COVID thing, it was like when COVID first happened, I knew it was going to be years. I knew it was going to be really hard, and I just said to myself, I'm not gonna let this ruin me or my business. I'm gonna somehow make this as positive as I can and as positive as I can for others. But to speak specifically to when my wife was sick, yeah, I mean that was horrible. I mean we're young people and still kind of just starting out our life and all that sort of stuff, and you get slammed with that. So I mean that's devastating. My thought on that was, I'm not the one who's sick. My wife is sick. My wife needs me. And again, I mean, everyone has their moments, but I very, very rarely broke down, and certainly not in front of her. I was like, I'm going to be there for her. I took her to every appointment. I worked from home as much as possible. I prepared all her meals. Even she had to be hospitalized at one point, so I was cooking food and bringing her food because she really wanted very nutritious food. And let's be honest, hospital food is not very nutritious. So and she, even so during that whole process and even afterwards, my wife was like, I don't know why did you do that? Like, or why did you never break down? Why did you never get sad? And I said, well, if you actually would have died, I could have been sad for the rest of my life. I had the rest of my life to be sad without her, but I said that wasn't going to be productive or positive to do that while you're still here. So let's just focus on whatever she needs for her treatments for the best result, and hope that works out. So that kind of gave that was my way of giving myself the inspiration and motivation to just not get sad about it, right? And she's she was up and down every day, because all the emotions are rolling through her head, and it's like, well, she doesn't need me doing the same thing. That's not going to help her. So that was it. You're like, okay, how can I be the most positive and helpful in these types of situations? And whatever the outcome, I'll deal with the outcome later.
I can't even imagine like the strength that took to say these words, because you aren't just saying them, you lived it.
Yeah, no. I mean, it is, and I'm certainly not trying to brag, but I think, so coming out of that, I learned that about myself, and to relate it to like through COVID or even after COVID here with our business, inflation's been, it's been awful, and we've had to go through some really tough times at the brewery, but it's like, I have to show up and be positive. I have to show up and be happy, because I need everyone else to keep working and keep having that great attitude. If they see me and I'm up and down and I'm yelling and swearing or getting drunk all the time, like they'll be like, I'm not going to work hard for that guy. This guy's a mess. His business is a mess.
Right.
So you got to show up. You got to show up for others. And if you do that, they'll show up for you. So that's what I mean. So my wife and I, we have an awesome relationship. People I work with, we have an awesome relationship. So that's the value I get out of it, right? So right. It's not a, oh, look at me, I did all of this. It's, I did this and I got this back in return. So pretty awesome. It's all good. So it's like anything. It's what you get out, what you put into it.
Right.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, no, that's
And like really thank you for sharing that story.
no,
Like
seriously, like
Cool.
like we're really I'm getting goosebumps right now.
I was gonna say that too. I wasn't getting the word out, but yeah, that's exactly it.
But yeah, it's awesome. So you mentioned that, like, I've seen on Instagram pages as well, you're really into cooking and you're a big foodie, right?
Yep.
Yeah. How's that?
So again, I was mentioning how I loved beer from a young age. I loved food. I loved the idea of cooking. I've just always been super curious about that. And so yeah, that's always just been a huge passion. I consider, at least from my perspective, beer is also part of food, and food can be art. I'm kind of bouncing all over the place, but what I love about food, which also applies the same to beer, there's so much science to learn behind it. But then, which is very, very important, and I really, really want to know all that stuff. But then there's that artistic, creative flair where you can do whatever you want. So some chefs follow detailed recipes. They have no ability to create their own or to deviate from that, and that's fine. And then some folks are so creative, but it's like, okay, but it doesn't taste good.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not a professional chef, nor will I ever be. But again, I try to balance those two things, and I try to know my limits on the creative side, but I also make sure I understand the science of it. And so that's a lot. I love those. I love both things. I love being analytical and I love being creative. And so food is just such an amazing outlet for that. And then again, you get to share it with people and sit down and enjoy things, right? And what I wanted to say from that is that, yeah, from a very young age, with cooking with my mom, and she would, I remember her baking bread every day and pickling stuff and all that. And I probably helped more, or I probably helped sometimes more than others. Some days I maybe was more interested in watching cartoons, but I love doing that. And I'm trying to remember the exact age. I want to say by the time I was 12, I was pretty much cooking, maybe not all the meals, but probably at least half of the meals for our family.
That's awesome.
And like, it didn't feel like a chore. It was, again, some days when I wanted to maybe go play with my friends, but my mom would be at work and there'd be a note, this is what you have to make for supper. And I'd be like, cool, let's make it.
Wow.
And then, it'd be like, well, I made it the same way for 3 months. I'm going to try it this way this time. Right. And there's no one home. There's no one to tell me I can't do it. So I'm just going to do it.
Right.
And again, there were some hits and misses. Sometimes they would get home and they'd be like, not sure if that was so good, Mark. But and then other times they're like, what did you do? This is amazing. Like we need to do this all the time. So yeah, I don't know what I can't necessarily put it into words. I just love the idea of like real food and real ingredients and just being able to play with that. I get so much satisfaction from that. I never get bored of it. I was thinking about, I've got Father's Day coming up here. I was like, okay, what am I going to make for my dad? I'm going to make him something that he's really going to like, he's going to enjoy, but maybe put a bit of a spin on it. Something he's maybe never had before. Yeah. So
is that like how the restaurant came to be as well? Like your passion and love for food?
The restaurant side of our business, I was terrified to run our own part of our own restaurant because I've never done it, and I knew how hard it was going to be just to run a brewery. So initially we didn't do any of that. Mm-hmm. But the restaurant side of our business is actually I have a contract arrangement with Altropa Zone, which he also runs food trucks and catering, and he has his own commercial kitchen off site. It's a great partnership. It is awesome because Roberto and Valeria and all of their staff and family, they are just as passionate about food as I am about beer, and they know how to do it and do it well. So they work so hard. I know I work hard. They work way harder than me. They put in way more hours. It is insane how hard they work, and so it's just fun to know that, and it's so I don't have any stress because I can just rely on them to take care of it. And they don't even need my creative input, but every once in a while I might say, oh, hey, I really like this type of a dish. And they'll be like, yeah, okay, we'll make that. No problem. So it's just easy. And it just takes a lot of that stress over. I don't have to actually manage that piece of it because I know how hard it is, and managing food costs and managing kitchen staff. It's really, really tough. It's really, really tough out there. So it's been a great partnership because again, for them, they've always wanted their own restaurant as well. But again, it's the costs are so high, the margins are so thin.
Right.
And so it's been a perfect marriage of the two businesses. We both mutually benefit, right? People come in, may come in just to try their food, but then they're like, oh, well, there's all this beer here. I'll try, or whatever other products. And same thing, people come in for the beer. Oh, there's food. Oh, it's really good. So yeah, it really lessens the risk for both parties, and we all just kind of succeed. Yeah, even like at our business right now along Dewdney Avenue, we're under serious road construction, and we were terrified how that was going to impact our business. We actually ended up with more customers came through our business in May compared to May last year, which is insane. And I definitely feel badly. I feel badly for a lot of the other businesses along Dewdney because they are not seeing that. I think again, it's very validating because I said I've been fearful because we knew this construction was coming for years, and we've been so stressed out about it. But it's so validating. I'm like, people are willing to be inconvenienced and go out of their way and deal with all this these because people hate construction and traffic, right? People hate it. And it's like they're willing to go out of their way and deal with that just to come and have tacos and beer at our place.
Because you're why.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Trade. Like the impact you've made on this in our community in Regina.
Yeah.
They're not going to find that anywhere else. I mean, like how there's this person, Alex Ramosi. So he says this thing too, like, people can copy me as much as they want, but they're never going to be me.
Yeah.
And the day people stop copying me is the day I should be worrying.
And that's where that confidence comes from, right? People even say a lot of times, well, what about your competitor down the street? Or what about your other competitor in the industry? I really don't believe in that. Like, my only competitor is me.
There we go.
And like me yesterday. And it's like, hey, how am I going to be better today? And if you focus on that, like you'll do well, right. Do really well. But be really hard on yourself too, right? Like don't just say, everything I do is great. Maybe everything I do is great, but you know what? I can probably do it better tomorrow.
It's like that realization, like understanding that there's always room for improvement.
Yeah.
It's like there's the study we follow, not study, sorry, like philosophy, like stoicism. So the Stoics also tell this, like the stupidest man out there is a person who says, I know everything. And the wisest men are there who stay silent. It's like this quote, right? Like you have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. Like listen more and speak less. Yeah. Like don't say like, I know everything. Oh, I know that. You don't. Tomorrow you'll learn something that you never knew in the past. Like for me, 22 years of my life. Yeah.
Yes. It's a wonderful way to live.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I think even, I'm getting, how old am I? I think I'm 46. I'm 46 or 47. I don't know. I'll be 47 later this year. Wow. But I'm starting to feel older, right? Or you see other folks and, you do see people, the kids these days, or it was better back then. And that's fine. It's fine, right? But like, I'm excited about the future. I'm excited about folks like you and like your ideas and the spin you're going to put on the world. Like, that's nothing to be fearful of. That's exciting. I don't know. I can't wait to see what people are going to come up with. So, yeah, I've really started thinking about that over the last few years. I'm like, I don't ever want to get into that spot where you're just crabby and old and you think you know everything and you think all the young people have got it wrong. Like they don't have it wrong. So, and again, it's such a freeing way to feel, right? So I have young people that work at the brewery, maybe even just part-time. And like, I want to pick their brain. I'm like, what are you into? What do you like? What music do you listen to? Like, what do you and your friends do for fun? Like, I want to know that. I think it's and yeah, whether I'm interested in pursuing some of those things, it doesn't matter. They're
not gonna be listening to punk rock. I'll tell you that.
That's what I mean. It's just interesting, and it's like, man, if you stop being interested in that stuff, like, man, what a boring way to live.
Yeah, for sure.
So towards the end of the podcast, we do like this rapid fire round.
Okay.
I'm gonna ask you 3 questions. Pranav's gonna ask you 3 questions. Just have to answer in like 1 word or 1 sentence.
Okay.
Up to you.
I'll try.
You can even go forever.
I'll try. I'll try not to like pause too much. Yes, I'm ready.
You know, Sad?
So when is your next punk rock, little meet and greet happening? Because you used to perform. When is that happening again? You still do it?
Hopefully for Halloween.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Where's that?
It might be at the brewery. I haven't told anyone else that, but yes.
So
Now
people in
everybody knows.
Regina, mark your dates. October 31st. Yeah.
Yeah.
March.
We're hoping.
Yeah.
Yeah. If we practice, we got to practice.
What's a favorite movie and why?
I would say, I don't know what I've been seeing. We'll say the Big Lebowski right now. That's all I'll say. I don't watch any new movies. I know old movies. So
Old movies, yeah.
yeah, Big Lebowski. I love. I can watch that anytime. And I've been Slapshot the movie, which is a hockey movie from the 70s, and
Okay.
I've been thinking about that movie lots lately too. So
if you could give one piece of advice to 20-year-old Mark, what would that be?
Probably again, take more chances. Have some more confidence in yourself. I had very little confidence as a 20-year-old.
Yeah.
Like very little. And I was pretty angry, I think. I was pretty angry and had no confidence. But yeah, I don't know how I could have gotten that confidence. I mean, sometimes those things just take time, right?
It's just hard to believe seeing you like the way you are right now that you didn't have confidence.
I tell people this all the time especially when I was in high school and in English class, if you'd have to do an oral presentation, I would just take a 0. I would ask, I'd say, how much is the presentation worth for your final grade? I'd calculate all the math, and I'm like, well, I could still get an A if I take a 0. So I'd just be like, yeah, I'm good. I'll take a 0 because I didn't want to talk to anybody.
Right.
Well, that's where the analysis skills come from.
Yeah, right. This reminds me of a quote that I saw like yesterday. So I think it's like an Italian, I'm guessing, a philosopher. His name's Marcus Tullius Cicero, and he says that more is lost by indecision than the wrong decision.
Yeah.
Right?
I believe that now. Yeah. I try to make decisions really quick. Obviously, some bigger decisions take time, and but. That whole idea, and again, I've watched some stuff on the science around, but when they say trust your gut, what was that? They actually say that the decision-making part of your brain doesn't understand numbers or letters. It only understands emotion.
No, I don't know that.
That is fantastic. I just think that's amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah, they say trust your instinct, because your actual decision-making part of your brain doesn't know data. It doesn't understand data at all. It only understands emotion. Brilliant.
Right.
I also read this somewhere that, like, when they say gut feeling, we actually have nerve cells in our guts.
Mm-hmm.
So we have like an actual brain over here. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah. So I try not to agonize over things anymore. Right. I'm just like, okay, I'm just going to go with it and let's see what happens.
That's awesome. What are you most grateful for right now?
I'm grateful for the people around me. Yeah. I've got great, my wife and my staff and, my mom and dad are still around. They're plenty happy and healthy and whatnot. I'll say they're both in their 70s, but my mom's not 70 for a couple more weeks, so she wouldn't want me to say that. But like, we go and work out together. Like, that's awesome. I'll go and visit them. Like, they spend the winter in Phoenix. I'll go visit them. We go to the gym every day and we work out. And we'll go on hikes and do stuff. And they want to come and try beers at breweries with me. Yeah. Like, not a lot of people get to do that. So that's pretty special. Yeah. Just having people around that I can be myself and I can share anything with those folks. Cause you've got that trust, right? We didn't talk about a whole lot, not that we need to get into it, but I think about trust a lot. And if you have trust, like, that's a really powerful thing. Really, really powerful.
If you could talk to a person from the past or present, any one person, and just have a conversation with them, who would that person be?
Wow. I don't know. I did have a good answer for that a week or two ago, but I forgot.
It could be dead or alive.
I know. I'm trying to think. You know what? I think, if he's mentioned that, I think my grandpa Jim, I would love to chat with him. He passed away in the 90s. He never got to see all this stuff that we're doing here. And, and he had his strengths and weaknesses just like everyone, but I really, really enjoyed him. He was very lively and energetic. I think that's where I get some of that creativity and if a bit of a wild streak. I think I got that from him. And, he never got to see me as an adult, nor did I get to have conversations with him as an adult. I was always just a kid, right? Yeah. So we never got to have like a deep conversation, So yeah, probably my grandpa jam. That would be awesome. And I'm sure he would love to have a beer with me too. He liked his beer.
100%.
Yeah.
I love that answer.
Yeah.
So what's something you didn't used to value, but now you really, really do?
Sorry, something that I didn't used to, but now do. I would say absolutely like relationships and working together. I used to not want to work group projects in school. Are you kidding me? Be like, no. and literally, if we were a group of 3, and if I was into the project, I'd be like, you know what, you guys just go do whatever you want, and I will do the project. Yeah. I don't want your help. Just leave me alone, and I'll do it. And we'll get an A. Don't worry. That was always my approach. It's like, well, no one could do it better than me, right? Or there's one way to do it, and it's my way. And it was because I didn't know how to communicate with people, right? That's actually what it was. I wasn't good at doing that. So I did focus on that and leadership skills and this and that. And you're like, it's incredible what you can do with multiple people. You can reach far beyond your own skill level. So, and embracing the talents and skills that they have, right? So definitely, that's what I've learned.
That's awesome. Well, I think this is a perfect note to end the podcast on. And Mark, just want to say that we're so grateful and appreciative that you made this happen. You gave us your time.
Sure.
And shared just like a glimpse of your life. I bet there's like so much more that we don't know. There's so many stories, right?
Yep.
And we'd love to talk about that more on another possible podcast.
Sure.
And just wanted to say thank you so much for coming out.
This is a blast. Like I learned things about myself. That's why I like doing these things. So it's the pleasure's all mine. Thank 100%.
You. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mike.
Excellent.